We've been talking about the issue of homelessness funds and the allocation of them for days, weeks, months. And yesterday there was a game-changing vote by the LA County Board of Supervisors. Homelessness funds now allocated in an entirely new way. It was a 4-0 vote by the county board with 1 abstention. The county is creating its own homeless services department, essentially stripping funds from the joint city-county agency known as LAHSA, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. One of the measure's co-authors is Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. Here she is explaining a bit of that at the board meeting.
Our homelessness crisis is too big, and Measure A taxpayer investments are too important to continue with the status quo. If we're to engender the public's trust, we must take action for a more centralized, effective, data-driven strategy to reduce homelessness.
Supervisor Horvath and Supervisor Barker co-authored this measure, brought it in. It passes, and it does change the game for homelessness in Los Angeles. With us now to talk more about that is the person you just heard from right there, Los Angeles County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. Supervisor Horvath, welcome back to Inside the Issues. Thanks for being back, and congratulations on getting a measure you co-authored to pass with flying colors.
Yes, we're really excited about it. Thanks for having me back.
There's so many things to talk about. You and I spoke about this before the vote last week, and here we are on the other side. Logistics, many of them. I mean, some people who've even criticized said, hey, I mean, it's a timeline, not a plan. I'm sure you feel differently. Talk about the plan.
Well, we're really excited to hold accountable the dollars that Angelenos have invested in a system that hasn't delivered in the ways that they have wanted, but they continue to invest because they know that people need the help and the care that actually gets them off the streets once and for all. And so the county is stepping up and doing our part as it relates to accountability that the voters have called for by creating a centralized department. Right now, as I've shared, the work that's done in the county exists across about 14 different departments. Consolidating that into one department that will have one director with one mission, one place for people to go for services and support. And the cornerstone of that department will be the very successful Housing for Health program that the county created more than a decade ago, has delivered real results. That's the kind of investment that we should be making. And the second thing that we're doing is scaling back LAHSA. We're taking the dollars that came from the voter-approved measure and bringing them back in the county to have more administrative oversight and more transparency and accountability on where those dollars are going, because we have seen audit after audit say that LAHSA, despite its many attempts, has not created the infrastructure that best practices for millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars agencies should have in place in order to properly administer that funding. So we're bringing that funding back to the county, and we're making sure that it's being spent in the right way.
There have been some very critical audits of LAHSA and its operations. The tracking of these dollars going unaccounted for, a huge issue, as we know. You talk about Measure A and the money that it will raise as increase in sales tax across the county. But city leaders are concerned, and some of them are having some buyer's remorse for having campaigned for this county measure as city council members and feeling like now they are not going to have a say in what happens with those dollars because of this reallocation restructuring. One of those people is Councilmember Nithya Raman. She showed up yesterday to talk to you guys before the vote, and she was here on the show last night too. I want to play a little bit of her concerns and maybe have you respond on the other side.
So I'm very critical of LAHSA and working to make it better, but this particular vote today, what it does is it takes a city-county entity that was designed to coordinate services and dollars between the city and the county on an issue that affects us both, and takes all of those dollars that City of LA voters voted for out of this shared agency and puts it into the county, over which I have very little oversight, authority, or input.
Councilmember Rahman was going on to make the point that the majority of homeless people are in the city. Of course, there's many in the county, and ultimately that now the city is going to have a difficult time coordinating in some ways. I mean, how do you see that playing out, and how do you respond to some of those criticisms?
So the LAHSA agreement continues. It existed before these ballot measures were ever passed. The city and the county both invested in LAHSA before ballot measure funding was invested in the system, and that agreement remains. We also have the Alliance lawsuit agreement, as well as a separate MOU that the city and county have worked out in terms of how we work together on homelessness overall. So we have 3 formal legal documents that are signed that commit us to working together. But even more than that, we have committed elected officials at the city and the county who want to see results. So I am convinced that we will continue to work not only with the city of Los Angeles, but every other city, all of the 87 other cities who also want a seat at the table, and our unincorporated communities to offer a regional solution. And, the Measure H, which is the predecessor to Measure A, was originally passed as a county measure. It was passed by the same voters, and it was passed as a county measure, and those dollars came into the county. It was the county that chose to invest those dollars in LAHSA. And as I said, audit after audit has shown us that those investments have not been properly tracked, have not been accounted for. So this is simply the county saying enough's enough. We're going to take those dollars back into our system so we properly account for them, but we're still spending them in our shared constituencies in all of our cities, including the city of Los Angeles. So it's always been a county ballot measure. If this most recent one, Measure A, was actually a citizens initiative. So if people who drafted this measure wanted it to be a city measure, they could have done a city measure. They actually drafted it as a county measure, and they drafted it with allocations to each city. So unlike Measure H, the city of Los Angeles actually gets a direct allocation from this measure, which it didn't have before. So if they didn't pass it, they wouldn't get the funding that this measure is now specifically directing to the city of Los Angeles. And I think that the people voted for it.
Right. Well, the LA City Council is considering a similar exploration of what to do about their relationship to LAHSA. I think people just want to see city and county coordinating to the extent possible, also efficiency in accounting and dollars to the extent possible. Obviously, this is what we saw there yesterday at the vote that you had. I understand the timeline to be that by the end of the year, the department gets stood up and the employees transfer over, and by mid next year, it's up and running and fully funded. It's going to be very interesting to watch it all play out. I'm sure we'll have a lot of conversations about it moving forward. Another thing that you all did was a motion, and this is interesting because you've extended the deadline to have the sort of phase 2 Army Corps of Engineers opt in to remove the debris, but there have been some properties that have been entirely non-responsive, right? Talk about what you're doing there on the county level about that.
Yes, and we have critical properties in my district along the coastline in particular that are not only a challenge for the property owners themselves, they're a challenge to our beaches, to our overall communities, and not having those property owners respond in a timely manner prevents us from being able to do the kind of cleanup and debris removal that we want to see to protect our coastline. So once that deadline is, we know the deadline has advanced to April 15th, but we want to make sure that especially in those sensitive areas that we are using all the authority that we have to step in, to clear those properties and to make sure that we're protecting our communities. When this debris is out there uncontrolled, it's a danger to our communities. That's why we've been moving so quickly to get it collected and properly disposed. And that's what we're committed to doing through this motion.
Well, we appreciate seeing the kinds of efforts to make sure that people are getting what they need and that the properties are getting their highest use, best use, and that the property owners are getting what they need as well. So we appreciate that. The other night at the Hollywood Bowl, there was this beautiful concert. It was called We Love LA, and up there on stage was Gustavo Dudamel and the LA Philharmonic, and others like Christina Aguilera, and also you, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, talking to the audience, and this was obviously for first responders, a beautiful concert. I'm sure it was a beautiful moment for you too. Just talk to us about what that concert was like and what all we saw there.
It was incredibly moving. This is now a space that is very unique for our community members because they're sort of dispersed in all of their temporary housing solutions. So to have a place where they could come together, to be in community, to appreciate music and the healing that it can bring is incredibly important. And so I'm grateful to our friends at the Hollywood Bowl and LA Phil, our Department of Parks and Rec in the county, and obviously Chair Barger was there with me as well, recognizing all of the first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, but most especially our community members who are enduring so much. And I'm grateful we were able to have this moment together.
It's so beautiful. There is a healing power of music. I want to see the Barger, Dudamel, Horvath collab. That picture was the lineup, and maybe we'll see some kind of a release coming down the pike. But I'm glad you had a good time, and it's so nice that you spent those healing moments with the community there, and spend these moments here with us talking about these issues. It's great to have you here. Thanks so much for your hard work, and looking forward to doing more of these conversations with you.
Really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As always, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath talking about a game-changing vote by the LA County Board of Supervisors when it comes to homelessness, but also moving on from the fires and spreading a little healing energy to our community. We got more coming up in ITI. Stay with us.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest information, balanced coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.